live.
Are we not going live to you just record?
They don't want a governance structure up there, they like the way it's run.
Oh. No, just a motion coming.
I thought we got it.
Mr. Chairman, I may need to step out just to take a call. I need to step out just to take a call.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. 31% for me. Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome, and thank you for your attendance. Now I'd like to, are you able to do the karakia? Call upon the Mayor to open our meeting with the karakia. Thank you. Kia hora te marano, kia whakapapu pōnā mo te moana, hei hora, ahi mā tātou I te rangi nei, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou I atu kapo. Thank you, Jason. The call for apologies, I actually have received one from Greg, able to attend this morning, and Grace, who's is running a little bit late. Any further apologies?
I'd like to move.
Accept those apologies. Submitted. Madsen, all in favour?
Aye.
Great. I ask for someone to move to confirm this morning's agenda, please. Deputy Mayor Kerno, seconded. Ross McKinley. Those in favour?
Aye.
It's carried. I'd like to remind members to, at this point, to declare any potential conflict of interest in this morning's agenda. Don't believe there would be too many. Thank you. No declarations. And we'll now like to confirm the minutes, the open minutes of the May meeting, May 2022. Someone like to move that the committee meeting minutes of the committee meeting show and correct record. Yep, I'm Brian Madsen, and I'll second that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Item 3. Okay. Right. Sorry. Yes. Yeah, I'd like to move that we note the report for acknowledged Raupo Drainage Committee confirmation. Seconder. Anna, those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Tracy?
Did anyone have any questions on that? From my point of view, it was lovely that the same members came back in, and that you are willing to do this for another 3 years, and thank you very much for that and for the time in your past. Thank you for that. Yes, so you are all back on the Raupo Drainage Committee as the ratepayer members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tracy. And now that we've got a lot of work in front of us again for the next 3 years, but no doubt we'll box on as we have done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may also make a statement. Yeah, also congratulating the members for being returned to the committee, and thank you for stepping forward here. As far as the whole council is concerned, this was a unanimous decision by the council. regarding the decision that was made for all of you to be re-elected here. And that sense of continuity is very, very, very important for all of the knowledge that all of you bring to the very important work that's happening here. So council made a unanimous decision that all of you continue on and rather than finding other people. So yeah, like I say, the perspective of the council as a whole here was very, very clear. And so I just would like to reinforce that to you, that there were no difficulties or challenges in this space. So on behalf of all of the council, because I have to speak for the decisions of all of the council, if you like, I say thank you for putting your names forward. Thank you for allowing us to make the decision as this council now in advance of the election rather than waiting until after the local body elections. Of course, that's entirely permitted for us to be able to be doing that, and it's entirely appropriate that we can do that. Again, to provide that continuity, and you know, Councillor Wills and Deputy Mayor Curnow, right now their eyes will be glazing over because I'm just repeating the speech that I made at the council meeting where we made this decision. Yeah, so like I say, congratulations to the local committee members for stepping forward here and for your continuity that you bring to the important work of the Raupo Drainage Committee. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Smith, and thanks Council for their faith in our abilities, and we will endeavour to continue as we have, and maybe some people might listen to us. We'll see. Yep. Is there any further statements to that? If I may, I'd just like to take the opportunity, whether this is the appropriate time or not, but to thank our elected members who have served on the committee for the past 3+ years. Your input has been valued and appreciated. We wish you well in your endeavours outside of council, and no doubt you'll still be kept in the loop about what's occurring within the district, and thank you again for your time and input on behalf of our crew. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 4. We get Wayne to speak to that before we accept it.
You can move and submit it first, then he speaks, and then
Okay.
we go to the vote.
Okay, I'd like to move the Raupo operations report as in front of us. You received, you second it. Dave Hart. All those in favour? Carried. Wayne, you'd like to speak to your report to highlight any?
Our floodgates have just been normal blockages, debris blockages, and had no issues this season to date. Machine cleaning and Well Street was a property that breached our bylaw, which we've had to open up. And you're all aware of that. Rain spraying. Came in about 10,000 more than what we thought, which was due to the chemical cost, but that's pretty much what we were banking on. No issue with stock banks. Flood pump has been performing well. We had a few issues with the probes, but Ian solved that with tube that the probes sensor, the tube that the sensor probes sit in. So that had dropped down. So we've remedied that. The bylaw breach on the property, we have opened up the blockage, and we're claiming costs from the owner. That's about all I've got.
Ask you a question?
Stay.
Just from my understanding, why was the regional council involved if it was a breach of the district council bylaw?
But both, we weren't sure about the volume of material they could use. They also put an advert on them for the property listing. It was had fish put in it. It was in it, so we got regional council over to have a look while we opened it up.
There was a potential biosecurity risk regards to what had been placed in the pond.
That wasn't so much the construction, that was the regional
It
council.
was regional council's role was more biosecurity.
But just didn't pick that up from the report.
Okay, so another question on that. Just the report says that further works are still needed to stabilise the drag bank and neighbouring properties. Is that work booked in, or where are we?
My understanding is the property owners have been issued with a notice to further remedy or
You state,
plan.
Yeah, so
you state back to what it was.
through you, Chair, we've given them another notice, 14-day notice to provide us with a plan of what they intend to do. And then on 28th day, we'll take action twofold. We can take them to court or go in there and do the works ourselves. So we haven't made that decision yet. We're just waiting to see what their response is within the 14 days.
Is there any further questions to the operations report?
Any update? Sorry, Chair, is there any update on those chemical costs?
Wayne,
No, nothing yet. We have an operations meeting after this. We probably
yeah, it's the intent to actually sit down with the contractor and try and get something a little bit more finalised. I think where we ended up was a pretty good result, because initially we were faced with a potential
double that.
Yeah, it was looking like 120, I think 126,000. They came back to us with potential chemical rise. So we've balanced the way we conducted the spray program this year to try and minimise that increase. So I think I'm reasonably happy with how we've ended up. Although it's $10,000 that was unbudgeted, the outcome was potentially far worse.
The reason I asked that question is I think Farm Source just sent out a text or email saying there's something like a 4-month wait list for glyphosate through them at the moment on the whole. So just thought I'd bring that to them. It's not just the price, it's actually
Yeah, it's availability. Yeah, we've got the contractors sort of semi-booked in to have a catch up. So yeah, we'll get that pinned down. But thanks for the heads up on that. Okay. Hey,
I'll just ask you a question.
Grace.
Okay, my apologies for my lateness. I have noticed on our agendas that the house across the road has gone off. Can we get an update either from council in regards to the house?
I guess we can get it brought onto another agenda. It's not actually in this one.
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah, it's not forgotten. It's just off the radar at the moment.
It just looks like a big beast sitting there and getting a lot of community feedback around the property.
Yeah, we're hoping to schedule Working's operations working group meeting in September.
Okay.
At his availability, we'll set some dates for that. Okay, there's no further discussion to that operations report. Have a move and second. All those in favour? Aye. It's carried. And we have a mover for item 4, the Raupo Drainage Financial Report. Please. Kuno, seconded. Grace. Now, any... Yeah. Graham, I'll hand over to you, and then we'll have some questions after that.
Mr. Chairman, just registration what's really in the report. This finished the year last year slightly over budget, $12,000, so it wasn't too bad. And you finished the year with accumulated funds of 731,000. I also put in the report because at the last meeting there was discussion around the overheads and what was included in that. I've given you a breakdown and percentage of how that sort of made up. So hopefully that's given you a little bit more clarity about what is included in the number. As I said at the last meeting, there's that allocation across all sort of externally focused activities where they're doing work. It's just taking all the support spread evenly. With favours for any one part of it. So it is what it is really. Hopefully it's given you some indication of what is included in the number. But happy to take questions on the reports and the attachments as well.
Okay. All right, any questions on the financials? Anna?
Just a question for Graham. I noticed that some amounts have been carried over for a couple of years. Now, is there any risk or limit with how many years those can be carried forward?
No, there's not, because it's just as long as it's council approval. Okay, those budgets over, that's fine. Doesn't matter if they
Carry them forward and accumulate over.
correct. Yeah.
Any other questions from the? I've got a couple. Going to July, the July report, year ended July. The full year budget allocations aren't listed, but there is a large number under miscellaneous repairs and maintenance. So is that indicating the maintenance budget for the coming year in that far right hand column, note 1?
Oh, that was the number that was in the long-term plan. You can spend it how you like. So if you want to reallocate that.
Yeah, no, that's I just it was just sort of, so we hadn't actually allocated any individual budget figures to each cost centre like floodgates or pumps, anything at this point.
We're planning to do that.
Okay. And the other one was in note 3, the full year budget allocation in regards to management services increasing to $102,000. What's the reasoning behind that, given that our previous highest spend was last year at 19, just under 20K, and we had a previous budget of around 50K, and it's now in excess of double that?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I'd need to look at what was in the long-term plan. That number was set for not last year, but for the year before when the long-term plan was done. So we've just taken the allocation that was in the long-term plan, and that's been that was the annual plan number really for the year. I'd have to have a look.
For the benefit of the benefit of the committee, are you able to explain what is entailed in the management services costing? Like what services does that apply to directly?
Well, they are external sources, so it's not correct. It's not an internal cost. So
okay.
Not an internal allocation. It would be for an external consultant or a consultancy of some sort.
Okay, so that budget allocation is to into that particular cost centre, but
you could use it or
be able to manipulate that to move it to like infrastructure spend.
Yes. Okay. Or if you're going to go over in your repairs and maintenance because of chemical cost, you could allocate it there.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. And the other one, obviously, well, we've kind of sort of solved that, but just pointing out in the top part of that report, it's just worth noting, and it's probably hasn't gotten missed by the rest of the group, that our total operating costs in the year 19 and 2020 was $202,000. Our administration costs and professional services budget alone for this year exceeds that total amount. The increases had an explanation around the department costs and administration, but what's driven the increase? We've gone from like an actual cost last year of 79,000 to a budgeted cost this year of 104,000. It's a cost that the committee don't have any control over, but it would be nice to know how that number is achieved, how that budget figure is achieved.
As that is a allocated cost, it's determined by the overall cost increases for the rest of the council business, the support services. So we've had wage increases of 6%, additional staff and those support costs. Those costs have to get allocated across all cost centres. So that's where a lot of that is coming from. So,
It just seemed, I mean, from a ratepayer's perspective, it's a little bit disconcerting seeing our targeted rate or what's being extracted from our targeted rate going into staff costs and everything. We would accept the allocation from the general rate being divvied up. It's a little bit, I'm uneasy, should I say, that the percentage increase in regards to
what I can
without any clarity.
Allocation methodology that's there is the one that I inherited when I arrived a couple of years ago. When long-term plan was done, all that work was done before I got there. I haven't changed any of that methodology. It's all the same, and it is what it is. As I said, it's even across every activity. So we just take our percentage and allocate the costs across. We don't say that the drainage board should get a lesser allocation and therefore somebody else gets a greater allocation. Because if it didn't come from drainage boards, it have to come from a wastewater scheme or a water scheme or a stormwater scheme somewhere else. So it's like we have to get the money from somewhere, and at the moment the fairest way to do it is to have the allocation methodology the same and consistent across all activities. So that's what's been applied. If the council chose to change it, they could when they did the next annual plan. That would be a decision for council if they wanted to have a different methodology for some schemes to the others, but they'll have to be a council for it.
Is it, I mean, is the current system of the way these funds are allocated, is it working? I don't know if I could probably phrase that better, but we seem to have continuous significant increases in our admin costs, for conceivably very little extra benefit. No offence intended, but the same governance structures have existed for the last many years. Yet that particular cost is the one where we are, as a committee and as a whole, rather fiscally prudent in where we spend our ratepayers' money. The two cost centres that seem to be out of our control are the ones that are escaping us as far as with the amount of inflationary pressure on them. Anna.
I'm just wondering, obviously this comes out of council's financial policies, but with the next annual plan, is there an opportunity to look at, I'm just questioning whether there's almost a double dipping going on here, because you've got the ratepayers here pay for council overheads, and then they have a targeted rate which also pays for council overheads. I'm just wondering in the next annual plan whether there's an opportunity to look into that and just check whether it's fair for the ratepayers here.
I wouldn't say it's double dipping, because as I say, if we reduce it for the Raupo Drainage Board, they get those funds from somewhere else. So everybody else goes up, right?
Yeah.
It's just how the council decides to allocate it. At the moment, it's even, consistent on a dollar basis. If that's not the right methodology, we can review that. But that's the way it's been set, and that's the way that the long-term plan was.
Is something that should be looked into for the next annual plan, just and this committee gets an opportunity to actually understand that and provide some feedback as to whether that is appropriate.
Because, and if I could also add, I support Councillor Kuno's approach here, because the other targeted rates for drainage districts across Paipara, if you like, those committees, if you like, are all functioning entirely just within council resources. administration and operation perspective, if you like. There isn't this additional separation at scale, which talks to the potential for a double dipping thing. So I would understand across the other drainage districts, which don't have committees that are meeting in this way, that's centralised regarding that cost centre. But I'm just interested in the targeted rates.
Yeah,
and how all that works when all the cost centres of council, as you've explained very clearly, Graham, thank you, are going up, that this targeted rate area needs to pay a portion of that. Going, well, they're already paying that through the general rates.
Yeah, and I raised the exact same point and used the exact same terminology at the May meeting regarding the double dipping, because that is certainly the perception. It would be far more palatable if the overall general rate increased and the excess of administration. We don't mind contributing to our actual administration, but the numbers that have been forecast here are astronomical. I mean, it's when you're taking actually what our maintenance operating budget is, and then you look at the administration part of the budget. If you include the budget for professional services as well, it's equal to what we spend on our infrastructure. And as a group, we're here to maintain and improve our infrastructure, and not fritter away targeted rate, which is, it's the targeted rate for our ratepayers is not a cheap rate. We pay handsomely for the privileges of what we do and the works that we've got to do, and it's a little bit galling when you see those numbers chucked around where your targeted rate's going. So I would hope that I know it's challenging with the change of council laws coming up, but hopefully staff can take this issue forward. Like I go back to, it'd be a far more palatable if the administration costs have got to come from somewhere, but it would be far more palatable if they came from the general rate pool rather than the targeted rate. The targeted rate should be applied to what it's specifically targeted to, and the Raupo drainage rate is not targeted to administration. There is an administration component, I agree.
What is the cost allocation? I do accept that the instrument that's here at the moment is blunt, but as I say, it's one that I've inherited. Opportunity with next long-term plan to definitely change it. I'm happy to do that, happy to refine it and look at it, see if we can